So the first thing you want to do is open a new Google Sheets, and then you're going to go to extensions and make sure you have the Appsheet extension already downloaded. So you can see I already have it here, but if you don't, just go to add-ons, click get add-ons, and search for it over here. All right, the next thing you want to do is basically construct the skeleton data storage for your app. So effectively, Appsheets basically has questions that the user can manually input and generate data. So the questions will be the columns on the spreadsheet, and the data entries will be in rows. So let's say for the purpose of this video that I want to make an app to track local stores in the area. So I'm going to want to know the name of the store. I'm going to know address, hours of operation, and the phone number. And then I can paste in some dummy data that I've already copied over. And you want to make sure that you have at least 3 rows of like dummy data, so Appsheet recognizes that you have inputted some user data, and it can incorporate that as well. So the next thing you want to do is name your page down here. So I can call this stores, and let's say I wanted to create another page in my app called restaurants. I could just click on the plus sign and do the same thing over here. All right, so now that I've got my data for restaurants in as well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here on extensions. I'm going to click Appsheets, and I'm going to click create an app. And this part will probably take a second or two, and effectively what it's doing is it's building you a really bare app template that you can then further modify using the Appsheets developer UI. So you can see on the right side over here is the skeleton of our app, and you'll see it'll automatically generate this map feature that we don't actually need, and I'll show you how to delete that in just a second. You can see our store tab over here, and if you click through, we can see the data that I've already entered earlier in the spreadsheet. All right, so the first thing I want to do once I have this app is I want to click over here on data and double check the data type. And effectively what this does is it allows you to validate the inputs that the user is entering to make sure it is what you want. So the name of the store, yes, you want that to be a name. The address, we want to set that as address. Technically, you could set that as just like a plain text field, but then if you set it as address, what Appsheet does is if you click on the address, it'll actually pull up the map and give you the directions you need because it's integrated with Google Maps automatically as well. Hours of operation, we can leave that as a plain text field, and phone number, we can leave that as a numerical input. So that all looks good. And then if we see here on the right-hand side, there's a couple columns. So show basically means whether or not you want that to be present. So let's say I don't actually want to show the phone number of the stores publicly, but I still have that data collected on my spreadsheet. You can see as soon as I uncheck that box, the phone number disappears from here. And now it's back. If I want it to be editable, let's say I have already entered these fields and I don't want the user to be able to change these entries, then I can just uncheck these boxes and it'll lock those responses. The last thing here is the require column. So whether or not you want the field to be optional or required, you can set that here. So I think we should definitely want to know the name of the store, obviously. And let's say we want to know the address, and we'll leave the hours of operation as optional. So now that that's pretty much set up, what I can do is I can click on this little arrow over here, and you can see I can edit this entry, or if I go back and click on the plus sign here, I'm now able to create a new entry over here. So let's test it out real quick. Trader Joe's. We'll say address is Random Road. We'll go to 9 to 5 hours of operation. And you can see there's a little bug here where if you put number, it actually wants to like manually click. Or if you just type, that'll work too. And you don't have to worry about that plus and minus sign. And then you can click save, and that'll automatically be added to your list here. So the next tab that we're going to look at is the views tab. So right below the data tab is the views tab. If I click on that, you'll see a lot of stuff pops up. So the first thing you want to do is let's finish working on the stores page. So you can see here, view name stores, and that's what we see down here. Or I could be like stores in RDU, and that'll automatically update down here. And for this data, this is what it's referencing from your Google Sheet. So I want to make sure I'm referencing the correct sheet. Stores, yep, that looks good. View type is where you have a lot of flexibility. You can click through. Obviously, we don't want to, that view makes no sense for us. This deck view is what we just had. It's pretty intuitive. You can see it's pretty easy to delete, edit, or view the map. If you want it to be a little more compact, you can click on table, and you can see it's much more condensed. Gallery, it's much more spaced out. So you can kind of click through the different things and see which interface makes the most sense. And I think the deck interface makes the most sense over here. So I'm going to leave it like that. The next thing I can do is if I want to sort by a certain thing, let's say I want to sort alphabetically or sort by like hours of operation, I can add that criteria over here. Let's say I want to set it by the hours of operation, starting with the earliest at the top, the store that opens the earliest at the top, and the store that opens the latest at the bottom. And we can see I can set that criteria over here and remove it just like that. And here are some other like niche things that you guys can mess around with to see if you need it, but I don't think you'll probably need to use these features. So if I click down here on display, this is where I have a lot more control over the icons that I have. So I want to have like, I can actually change that down here, and I'm just going to search up store and set that real quick. So now that looks pretty good. Behavior, these are if you want to assign automations, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but you probably won't need to use the behavior tab that much. Documentation, if you want to leave comments here for when you're collaborating with your peers, like, hey, I've just added in Trader Joe's and I changed the icon. That's here. That's just for your own notes, so you can remember the changes you made later on. So the next thing here is this map tab. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it kind of gave it to us by a default, and we don't really need it. So I'm going to click here on map and just delete that. All right, so on the side over here, you see primary navigation. That's what you're going to see down here on the main page. So you probably want to set your most important features here. And let's say I want to create a new one. So I click on this plus sign, hit create a new view, and we can call this, let's say, restaurants. And here you'll see the spreadsheets pages that you've linked. And since I haven't completed and linked my restaurants page, it's not going to show up here. But let's say you filled out a restaurants page, you can click that here, and that's where it'll pull the data from. Then let's say I want to have a gallery view for the restaurants, and I can change the display icon to, let's say, something food related. So let's do like this icon over here. And you can see that now we have the stores page, and now we have the restaurants page. And again, the reason it's showing the same data is because I didn't change my source tab. And so these are your primary menu options. You also have a hidden secondary menu over here. If you click on this little icon, you'll see more views pop up over here. And you can edit those by coming over here. I don't think we really need any there right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that, and you'll see that menu clears up automatically. So that basically wraps up the views page. The next thing we can look at is the actions page, which you really won't have to do much here, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but this is another place where you can edit more of the formatting things of the different icons. And let's say how you want a button to respond once you click on it. So let's say if I click on this button, I want it to automatically call Costco. Then I can set that automation up here. The next thing you can do over here is automation. So automations, effectively what they do is, as the name suggests, they automatically execute certain tasks that you pre-designate. So let's say you want to also track spending of the user in this app, and you add in a tab for spending, and then you want the app to send the user a PDF of their monthly spending expenditures. Then you can click create my first automation and set up like send an email only with a PDF attachment of the data that's exported from the spending tab per se. So that's what automations is for. It's a pretty nifty tool. It's a pretty newly integrated feature, and if you think your app needs some sort of predictive modeling, then you can mess around with this a little bit more. Security, like I mentioned in the first video, one of the best things about Appsheets is that it automatically has security authentication for you. So let's say you only want user A to be able to access only the stores page, but you want user B to be able to access both the stores page and the restaurants page. And you can manage the users and assign their roles and authorizations over here. This is also the spot where you would add in your peer collaborators. So let's say you want to work together on this application. You can add your co-developer here and give them permissions to be like a co-owner or a co-developer, and just hit done and save here to save all your changes. And you can see that the app automatically refreshes every time. Usually if you hit save and your app reloads successfully, then you're good. You have no errors in your app formatting. But sometimes every now and then you'll get like a screen on here that says error in like really big letters, and it'll also tell you the source of your error, so you can exactly figure out where it was and figure out how to fix that as well. Sometimes you might see a little yellow triangle over here, and basically what that means is it's like a suggestion of what you should fix. So for the restaurants page, I set it as a gallery. But what it wants me to do to actually make it a gallery is put images of each of the restaurants so it's more visual to the user. So I can do that, but my app still works perfectly fine if I don't do that. The last thing I want to talk about is what to do when you finish your app. So if you finished your app and you're ready to deploy it or like download it as an APK file, what you want to do is go down here to manage and click on deploy. We're going to run a deployment check, and it'll just make sure that there's no errors or like fundamental flaws in your app, and it'll give you the green light to go ahead and deploy your app. And after you deploy your app, you'll see an option to download the APK file as well. And then if you want to look at what your app will look like on different like angles, you can see over here we have 3 different menu options. So I can see what it looks like horizontally on like a tablet. I can see if I click on the laptop screen, it'll take me to like the web page of what the app actually looks like on the computer. So these are great for checking out previews before you deploy your application. Hopefully this video provided you with an overview and like a basic understanding of how to use the Appsheet's user development interface. Hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.